Alright guys, Touchcom back again today. Hope you're enjoying your Friday so far, and today the Toronto home series kicks off, the final event of the CDL season. It's very important for a number of reasons. Champs seeding next month in August will be determined by this event, but also there's a lot of money on the line, and it's an absolute gauntlet, especially down in one of the groups, Group B, as we will look at in a second. But also, all top 4 teams are here. Florida Mutineers, Atlanta FaZe, Dallas Empire, and the Chicago Huntsmen, all of which have an opportunity to finish number 1 in the entire league standings, but also, of course, win this weekend's event. Very exciting stuff indeed. Intrigued to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. We're going to look at some of the seeding options in a couple of minutes here. Big thanks to Midnight.com for sponsoring this weekend's content as well. Once again, Dallas Empire considered the favourites in the outright for this weekend. Definitely understandable given their absolute domination at 12-1 map cap performance last time around. Is it going to be as easy this time? Probably not, given the group they find themselves in. Let's look here at this Reddit user SMNRN puts together this beautiful graphic of exactly where every team could potentially place at the end of this weekend. New York, London, Paris and LAG are no longer playing, so they are capped in terms of their placings and can only go down, apart from the LAG who are stuck in bottom place regardless of what happens. Let's first look at the bottom 4 before we go up to the top, which is probably more exciting, but the bottom 4 is definitely going to be more interesting for potential champs results. So Seattle, LAG are both stuck down here, but Paris could potentially change places with OGLA and Toronto. Now, Toronto, I'm pretty sure, need to win the entire tournament to get out. Because as we look at it in terms of, well, we'll have a look at this 1 second. Paris are currently on 100 points. OGLA are on 80. Toronto are on 70. Now, Toronto lose their head-to-head with the Paris Legion 2-1, which means that if they get to the finals and have 100 points each, the head-to-head will favour Paris and they will still, well, they will still be in 8th place. So I'm pretty sure Ultra have to win the entire thing to get out. However, OGLA have a much better time. They do lead the head-to-head against Paris Legion, which means they only have to win 2 matches. They only have to get out of their groups to possibly make it into the 8th place position. And that is certainly probably possible given exactly what their bracket looks like this weekend. So Paris definitely on the edge. The way this turns out is hugely important for champ seeding. As you can see in this bracket here, the bottom 4 teams, this is based off the seeding as it stands right now. The bottom 4 teams start in the losers bracket. And this is a massive deal because if you start in losers, you are basically screwed, right? You have to win all these series to make it to the grand finals. And if you're an 8th place team like Paris right here, you're in a much better position starting from winners than you are being an OpTic Gaming in position 9. So this is an absolutely massive deal. But of course, there's also the thing to consider, the top 4 teams as well. The middle teams doesn't really matter too much what they're playing for. You could consider they're playing to some degree for seeding, because if you're London right now, you're probably quite happy with the seeding as it is, so that you would play Minnesota, the 7th best team, in the first round at champs. However, if you're New York, you probably want the seeding to change such that you don't have to play a Paris team that just beat you 3-0 last time out. The top 4 is where it gets interesting though, because any team can still finish first, and crucially, any team can still finish second, which is what is important in terms of the bracket. As you can see right here, the top 2 teams in the league get to advance another round. So the top 3 and 4 teams, they get to advance 1 round in the winners bracket. The top 1 and 2 teams get to advance 2 rounds, meaning that if you're an Atlanta FaZe or a Dallas Empire, as it sits right now, you only have to win 3 series to walk away with the entire Call of Duty World Championship. However, any team can make it work, but it's very difficult for some teams to make it happen, as we will look at the possibilities in just 1 second here. So this is from Ian Bits on Reddit. This is what he says. Chicago effectively needs to win the tournament to get top 2, with niche scenarios involving a run from Minnesota, making it technically possible they could still reach top 2 with a 2nd place finish. But if Chicago want to be top 2 and get to that good seeding, they pretty much have to win the thing. Same deal with Florida, in a very similar position to Chicago right now, as you can see right here, both on 220 points. Basically the same deal for them. But FaZe and Empire certainly in the driving seat. Atlanta just needs to make it out of their group to lock the bracket. However, it's not as simple as that, given the bracket we're going to look at in just a second here. However, they do have a solid chance at top 2, even if they just beat Minnesota and certain other things don't happen in the bracket. So they should get out of groups if they do. Well, they will lock it if they get out of groups, but that is by no means a guarantee, as we will look at here in just a second. Dallas needs to win or finish second because they lose the tiebreakers. That's their problem. They have a load of tiebreaker issues with a load of the top teams right now, and that means that even if they do finish second, there are still some nightmare tiebreaker scenarios where they still don't make it. So Dallas have a lot on the line here, and Chicago and Florida certainly need to get the job done if they want to make it all the way through. So definitely a very exciting prospect. This is going to be hugely influential for how champs shapes up, and of course there's the championship of the Toronto home series on the line as well. Very exciting weekend. I'll leave the link to the bracket builder down below as well if you guys would like to check it out for yourself, but let's go through what I think is going to happen this weekend and what impact that might have actually on the champ seeding. So let's look at Group A first. This is probably the clearest cut one because, well, it's not even too easy to call, but then again, Group B is probably even more challenging. We've got Huntsman versus Surge, and look, Surge are basically down and out. Last tournament, that match against London was still their opportunity to win and potentially get out of the bottom 4. That's not going to happen anymore. Therefore, given the fact that they're basically resigned to their fate, I don't think they're going to do too much this tournament. You know, last tournament, they were just exactly the same Seattle. We've seen the entire season, Octane dropping 1.3s, the rest of the guys struggling to get anything going, and Huntsman, of course, have a huge amount of pressure on them, as do a lot of teams, to make it out to the top 2. I guess there's not as much pressure on the Huntsman because, okay, you finish top 4 in the league, it's hardly the end of the world, but you have to play one extra match, which is something of a disadvantage, right, compared to the top 2 teams being FaZe and the Dallas Empire right now. Huntsman are going to win the first round matchup, I think. And then we've got Ultra OGLA. Now, of course, OGLA, as I said, pretty much need to get out of the group to lock it because they have the head-to-head against Paris Legion to lock that top 8 placing to play against New York round 1. Imagine that's how it's going to finish up. You know, potentially Minnesota can go crazy and knock New York out of their purge. But that's highly unlikely. This, I think, is going game 5 one way or another. And just the fact that OGLA looks better last time out, I am going to take them to make it out of this group. I think this Hollow and Draza change is going to be good for them. And, well, Toronto Ultra, I still think are a good team, and they're probably a better team. They honestly, I feel like they deserve better than starting from losers, but I guess their season hasn't been so good overall, and 4 teams have to be down there, but definitely they've improved as of late. I do think they would take down Surge if they do match up against them, maybe a 3-1 or something like that. And then, of course, we've got Huntsman OGLA. I do think Huntsman are too strong for OGLA, to be honest, right now, but I definitely think this could go the distance once again. I'm going to say it's a 3-1, and Huntsman's hard point is still very solid. Then we go down to losers, and let's just deal with this Group A before we get on to the absolute gauntlet that is Group B. OGLA versus Ultra. I'm just going to say the same thing happens again. It's difficult to predict a couple of game 5 losses, but yeah, I think OGLA are going to clutch up one way or another. Second time around, actually, let's just take another 3-1 because OGLA do kind of get some momentum rolling later in tournaments, at least with the old squads. So yeah, I'm going to say that Ultra don't make it out of this group. OGLA make it into that top 8 position, which pushes Paris Legion down into 9th. Ultra will stay in 10th, and it's just an absolute disaster, really, for those organizations all the way down there. You lose one series, you're completely out of the money, and of course, you're out of the contention for Champs Glory. Let's look at this Group B, because this is where I'm pretty sure this is one of the craziest groups I've seen this entire season. Yes, Minnesota aren't the force they once were. Then again, we've heard things from Brian Saint over the last few weeks, and they've got Alex back in the starting lineup now. Maybe they'll be a much better team, right? So if this was like a few months ago and you had Mutineers firing on all cylinders, Minnesota Rocker when they were still like a top 4, top 5 team, then FaZe and Empire, like, damn, this is a hell of a group, and it still is, to be honest, and I think Rocker can certainly put up a fight. Then again, FaZe versus Rocker, I'm going to take FaZe to win this one. Their respawns were looking more solid as of late in the most recent event they played, so I think they're going to have enough edge over Minnesota Rocker here. Just winning this series gives them a very good chance of getting in that top 2 position, which is going to be crucial, as we've talked about this entire video, when it comes down to champ seeding. Then you've got Mutineers Empire, and my theory going into this event is that, look, Empire won last weekend in a 12-1 map count, absolute domination. They just destroyed every team they had to play up against, including the Florida Mutineers, of course. So I do believe the momentum is going to continue, and Empire are going to run through this one in, well, maybe let's say a 3-1 fashion. I do love a 3-1 here, and I love saying 3-1 fashion as well. That's just how we do it on Touch Grab Gaming Productions. Then we go down to losers, Rocker versus Mutineers, and look, it's just a very tough matchup for the Rocker this weekend. I'm going to say Mutineers get it done. I think it might go to a game 5. They haven't been looking quite as good as of late. And then you've got FaZe versus Empire. I think that Empire are just too good right now, especially given we saw FaZe versus Huntsman last time out, and Huntsman gave them the 3-0. I think this is going to be a 3-1. I don't think it's going to be so clear-cut. I think that Empire can't necessarily, I think it's doubtful that they keep the 3-0 streak alive once again. Certainly possible, but I think Empire get out relatively uncontested. I think there's going to be some close matches here, but if Empire play the way they were last weekend, with Illy firing on all cylinders as he was, this is going to be a very, very difficult team to stop by any means. Then you've got FaZe versus Mutineers, and this is a big one, right? Because if Mutineers manages to make it out here into bracket play, then you've got a very exciting prospect on our hands. I'm not really sure who to take here. I think I'm going to take FaZe to win just about in a game 5. It's going to be a close one, but I feel like FaZe are probably due at some sort of a bounce back event where they have a good performance and they make it relatively deep in the tournament, and they get to a point where they can at least show that they have good title contention when it comes to champs. Because as of late, I don't think many teams are picking FaZe to win champs based on the way they've played over the last few events. So I'm going to say they make it out. Unlucky for Mutineers, but they pretty much had to win the entire thing to make anything work anyway. And then we get into these semi-finals, and this is where I think the actual seeding potential may have some impact on how these matches go, because going into these semi-finals, as I have it, FaZe FaZe have nothing to play for at this point, pretty much. I'm pretty sure if they get top 2 and they get out, or they get top 4 and get out of their pool, they are locked in the top 2 position, which means that they don't really have anything to worry about. However, the Huntsmen pretty much have to win the entire thing. Therefore, I'm going to say the Huntsmen are going to beat FaZe. It was a 3-0 before. This time I'm going to take a 3-1. Not as comfortable, but the Huntsmen are going to go to the finals in my opinion. And it's the same thing in the other semi-final. OpTic Gaming Los Angeles have now locked up their top 2 spot by getting out of the group, and therefore Dallas Empire are the team that needs to win the championship to potentially make it through. So I'm going to say Empire make this series work. You know, let's actually call this one a 3-0. They just absolutely romp through OGLA all the way to the grand finals. And then we get Huntsmen versus Empire. This is how I'm going to predict it to go. And this is a very tough one to predict, to be honest, because both these teams I'm pretty sure have to win. At this point, if the bracket goes like this, FaZe will be in, well, they'll be in the top 2 guarantees. And then whoever wins this series, I'm pretty sure, ends up taking the top 1 spot. That's how exciting this entire weekend could be. Whoever wins this series ends up getting that other spot. I'm going to say that Empire are just too good for the Huntsmen and just about make it work, but I think it's going to go to a Game 5 or be something very intense indeed. So the way I'm predicting it, Huntsmen get all the way to the grand finals, just fall short to a very strong Dallas Empire, who do clutch up, and well, I'm pretty sure they would take top seed about this, if we just look at the bracket real quick, as it looks like now. So yeah, if Empire was to win this weekend and FaZe was to come in 4th place, then they would indeed, Empire would be the number 1 seed, FaZe would be the number 2 seed, and Huntsmen Mutineers just about falling short. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Very exciting stuff ahead. Thanks to Midnight.com for sponsoring today's video. There's still time to join the Draft Buff Draft Royale. Links down below as well. Winner of that will win a CDL t-shirt. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tune in tonight. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.